Miami, Florida, August 2005, 32 degrees Celsius. The air conditioning in the real estate office barely works. But inside, people are sweating for a different reason. They are signing the biggest financial commitments of their lives, and they have no idea they are being fed into a machine, a wealth extraction machine designed on Wall Street, and this machine is about to devour the global economy. Sitting at a plastic desk is a woman named Patricia Gomez, 29 years old. 2 kids. She works as a waitress at Applebee's. Her monthly income is $1,200. After rent, food, and school supplies, she has nothing left. Zero? Some months, she chooses between electricity and groceries. But today, Patricia is buying a house. $420,000. The mortgage broker smiles at her. His name is Kyle. Mid-30s, fake tan, white teeth, expensive watch. He drives a silver BMW 7 Series parked outside. 6 months ago, Kyle was selling cell phone plans at a mall kiosk. Then he took a weekend course, got a license. Now he is a mortgage broker, and he is about to make $20,000 in commission from Patricia's loan. Kyle slides the documents across the desk. He talks fast, really fast. He says the words adjustable rate mortgage, but he does not explain what they mean. He says the payment is only $900 a month for the first 2 years. Patricia can afford that. Barely, but she can afford it. She asks the question that has been bothering her. What happens after 2 years? Kyle does not miss a beat. He says, don't worry about that. You'll refinance before the rate adjusts or sell the house for a profit. Miami real estate goes up 20% every year. You'll make $100,000 just by living here. Patricia wants to believe him. She has been renting her whole life, moving every year when the landlord raises the rent. Her kids share a bedroom. Sometimes they share a bed. She wants stability. She wants a home. She wants the American dream. She asks one more question. What if housing prices go down? Kyle laughs. Actually laughs. He says, ma'am, housing prices don't go down. They never have. Not in Miami. Not anywhere in America. Real estate only goes up. That's just a fact. It is not a fact, it is a lie. But Kyle believes it. Because everyone on Wall Street believes it. Because the lie is profitable. And when lies are profitable, people stop questioning them. Patricia signs. Document after document. Her signature appears 15 times. She does not read any of it. Kyle does not encourage her to read it. The faster she signs, the faster he gets paid. What Patricia does not know is that she is not just buying a house, she is becoming a component in a financial weapon of mass destruction. Her mortgage will be sold within 48 hours. It will be bundled with thousands of other mortgages, sliced, diced, repackaged, and transformed into securities that will be sold to investors around the world, pension funds in Norway, insurance companies in Japan, banks in Germany. They will all own a piece of Patricia's mortgage. And when she defaults, which she will, the contagion will spread globally. But that is the end of the story. To understand how we got here, we need to see how the machine works. New York City, Manhattan, 47th floor, the headquarters of Goldman Sachs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. In the conference room, 8 men sit around a table made of polished mahogany. Each man wears a suit that costs more than Patricia makes in 6 months. On the wall is a flat screen showing a PowerPoint presentation. The title slide reads, Residential Mortgage-Backed Securities, Infinite Profit from Finite Risk. Leading the presentation is a 32-year-old vice president named Josh Birnbaum, Wharton, MBA, 4 years at Goldman, already making $3 million a year in bonuses alone. His base salary is almost irrelevant. Josh clicks to the next slide. It shows a diagram, a pyramid of boxes and arrows. He explains how the machine works, how they take mortgages like Patricia's and transform them into securities, products, commodities that can be bought, sold, and bet against. But more importantly, he explains how they turn garbage into gold, how they take loans that should never have been approved and make them look like the safest investments in the world. Josh clicks through the slides. The executives nod. One of them, older, gray hair, asks the obvious question. What if housing prices fall? What if defaults spike? Josh is ready. He shows a graph. U.S. national housing prices from 1945 to 2005. An almost unbroken line going upward. 60 years of growth. National housing prices have never declined, Josh says. Never. Local corrections, yes, Miami in 91, California in 89, but never nationwide. Our models show the probability of a national housing crash is 0.001%, statistically impossible. The executives are satisfied. The math checks out. The ratings are AAA. The profits are huge. What could go wrong? What Josh does not tell them is that he personally thinks the whole system is about to collapse. He has seen the loan files. He knows Patricia Gomez cannot afford her mortgage. He knows there are millions of Patricias. He knows the models are based on false assumptions. He knows it is all a lie. But Josh is not going to warn anyone. Because in 2006, Goldman Sachs will begin secretly betting against these same securities they are selling to clients. They will short their own products. They will tell pension funds the CDOs are safe while simultaneously buying insurance betting they will fail. It is fraud, criminal fraud, but it is legal fraud. Because derivatives are unregulated. Because Congress made sure of that. Las Vegas, Nevada. January 2006. The Bellagio Hotel. A conference for mortgage brokers. 3,000 people in the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers. Open bar since noon. Everyone is drunk on money, literally and figuratively. On stage is Angelo Mazzillo, CEO of Countrywide Financial, the largest mortgage lender in America. He is 67 years old, unnaturally tan, orange almost, white teeth that glow under the lights, $1,000 suit. Mazzillo is giving the keynote. He tells the crowd they are heroes, that they are not just selling mortgages, they are selling the American dream, that homeownership is a fundamental right, that Countrywide's mission is to democratize housing. The crowd applauds. Many are too drunk to stand. Mazzillo introduces new products, financial innovations, he calls them, the option arm, where borrowers choose their monthly payment, pay less than the interest if they want. The difference gets added to the principal, negative amortization, the debt grows instead of shrinking. Financial suicide wrapped in a bow, stated income loans, no verification needed. Borrowers write down whatever income they want, 40,000, 60,000, 100,000. Nobody checks, nobody cares. Ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets, the ultimate subprime product. Mazzillo actually says this out loud. He says if they have a pulse, we have a loan for them. The crowd roars with laughter and applause. He closes with a rallying cry. America is the land of homeownership. We are changing lives, we are making dreams come true, and we are getting rich doing it. Standing ovation. People are on their feet, cheering. Some are crying. They have found their purpose. They are going to approve everyone. Everyone. Because every signature means a commission. 2%, 3%, 5%. A $500,000 loan means a $25,000 payday. And if the borrower defaults 3 years later, not their problem. They already got paid. What the crowd does not know is that backstage, Mazzillo is doing something else. He is selling his Countrywide stock. Millions of dollars worth every single month through prearranged trading plans. Quietly, legally, but unmistakably, he is getting out. He knows the company is built on fraud. He knows it is going to collapse. He knows thousands of employees will lose their jobs, that shareholders will be wiped out, that borrowers will lose their homes. But Angelo Mazzillo will be fine. By the time Countrywide is sold to Bank of America for scraps in 2008, Mazzillo will have extracted $470 million, nearly $500 million, for running a criminal enterprise disguised as a mortgage company. He will be investigated. The SEC will charge him with fraud, civil charges only, not criminal. He will settle for $67 million, admit no wrongdoing, and keep the other $400 million. Free and clear, because that is how the system works. Crime pays. If you are rich enough. Patricia Gomez goes home that night with her house keys. She cries tears of joy. She has no idea that her mortgage has already been sold, that it is sitting on a trading desk at Goldman Sachs, that it has been sliced into a CDO, that the CDO has been sold to a pension fund in Germany, that when she defaults in 2 years, her failure will contribute to the collapse of European banks. that her American dream has been weaponized into a global financial crisis. But that is the future. Right now, in August 2005, Patricia is happy. She believes the system works. She believes America rewards hard work. She believes that owning a home will change her life. She is right about one thing. It will change her life, just not the way she thinks. The machine is running now. Millions of mortgages, trillions of dollars in securities, and hidden inside the machine, invisible to almost everyone, are a few people who see the truth, who understand that this is not innovation, this is fraud. And they are about to make the biggest bet in financial history. They are going to bet against Wall Street, against the machine, against the lie, and they are going to win. San Jose, California, 2005. A small office in a strip mall near the highway. 3 rooms, cheap furniture, no receptionist. This is the headquarters of Cornwall Capital, a hedge fund managing $400 million. But you would never know it from looking at the place. It looks like a failing insurance agency. Inside, sitting at a desk covered in papers and empty Red Bull cans, is a man named Michael Burry. He is 34 years old, thin, disheveled. He wears cargo shorts and a t-shirt with a heavy metal band logo. His hair is messy. He has not shaved in a week, and he has only one eye. He lost the other to cancer when he was 2 years old. The glass eye does not move. It is slightly off-center. It makes people uncomfortable. Burry does not care. Burry is not a typical hedge fund manager. He did not go to Harvard Business School. He did not work at Goldman Sachs. He went to medical school, Vanderbilt. He was going to be a doctor, a neurologist. But during his residency, he discovered something. He hated talking to patients. He hated the emotional side of medicine. He liked data, numbers, patterns. So he quit, walked away from medicine, and started investing. He began with his own money, $30,000 in savings. He opened an online brokerage account, started trading. He was good, really good. He made 130% returns in his first year. Then he started a blog, analyzing stocks, explaining his trades. People noticed. Investors contacted him. They wanted him to manage their money. By 2001, he had $4 million under management. By 2005, $400 million. Burry's strategy is simple. He looks for value. He reads financial statements, annual reports, quarterly filings, the boring stuff that nobody else reads. He finds companies that are undervalued, misunderstood, trading below their true worth. He buys them, holds them, waits for the market to realize he is right. It is not exciting, it is not sexy, but it works. But in 2005, Burry is not looking at stocks. He is looking at bonds, mortgage-backed securities, MBS, and what he sees terrifies him. Burry has downloaded hundreds of prospectuses. These are the legal documents that describe what is inside each MBS. Thousands of pages of dense financial data. Loan numbers, borrower profiles, interest rates, payment histories. Nobody reads these. Not investors, not rating agencies, not even the banks that sell them. They are too long, too boring, too technical. But Burry reads them. Every word, every footnote, every table. He builds spreadsheets. He analyzes the data. And he discovers something that should be impossible. These securities are rated AAA, AAA, the highest possible rating, safer than most corporate bonds, as safe as U.S. Treasury bonds. But the mortgages inside are garbage. He finds loans with no income verification, stated income loans where a strawberry picker claims to make $180,000 a year, a housekeeper claiming $90,000, an unemployed person claiming $120,000. Nobody checked. Nobody cared. He finds adjustable rate mortgages where the borrower is only paying interest, not principal, so the loan never gets paid down. It just sits there, growing, waiting to reset to a higher rate after 2 years, and when it resets, the payment will double, triple. The borrower will not be able to afford it. He finds negative amortization loans where the monthly payment is less than the interest owed. So every month the debt grows instead of shrinking. The borrower is going backwards, deeper into debt, with no way out. It is insane, it is predatory, it is criminal, and it is everywhere. Burry calculates when these loans will reset, when the interest rates will jump, when borrowers will start defaulting. He builds a model, charts, graphs, color-coded spreadsheets. The data is crystal clear. Starting in early 2007, millions of subprime mortgages will reset. The monthly payments will explode. Borrowers will not be able to pay. They will default. This MBS will collapse. The CDOs built on those MBS will collapse, and the banks holding those securities will fail. Burry sees all of this with perfect clarity. It is not a guess. It is not a hunch. It is mathematics, simple, undeniable mathematics. But he does not see a disaster. He sees an opportunity. The biggest trade of his life. He is going to bet against the housing market. He is going to short it, and he is going to make a fortune. But there is a problem, a big problem. You cannot short a mortgage-backed security the way you short a stock. There is no mechanism, no market. MBS are bought and held until maturity. They do not trade actively. Banks buy them and sit on them for 30 years collecting payments. So how do you bet against them? How do you profit from their failure? Burry has an idea, a brilliant, unprecedented idea. He calls Goldman Sachs. He asks to speak to someone in the mortgage department. He gets transferred 3 times. Finally, he reaches a junior trader, a guy named Greg Lippman, who will later become famous for the same trade. Burry explains what he wants. He wants to buy insurance on mortgage-backed securities, credit default swaps, CDS, just like insurance on a car or a house. Burry will pay a premium every quarter, a fee. If the MBS performs normally, pays as expected, the bank keeps the premiums and Burry loses his money. But if the MBS defaults, if the borrowers stop paying, the bank pays Burry the full value of the bond. The Goldman trader is confused. He says, nobody has ever asked for this before. Why would you want to insure a mortgage bond? They're rated AAA. They never default. It's like buying insurance on U.S. Treasury bonds. It's a waste of money, Burry insists. He says, just create the product, name your price. I'll pay whatever you want. The Goldman trader talks to his boss. His boss talks to his boss. They huddle. They run numbers. They laugh. They think Burry is an idiot, a doctor who thinks he understands finance but does not. They think he is going to pay them premiums for years and the bonds will never default. Free money. The easiest trade they will ever make. They agree. They create the credit default swap. They price it based on their models. Models that say the chance of default is almost 0.001%. Impossible. So the premium is cheap. Burry pays $50,000 per quarter to insure $10 million worth of MBS, a 0.5% annual cost to bet against securities rated as safe as gold. Burry signs the contract. He hangs up the phone. He smiles. He just made the trade of a lifetime, and Goldman Sachs has no idea. But Burry does not stop with Goldman. He calls Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, Credit Suisse. He buys credit default swaps from all of them, hundreds of millions of dollars worth, then billions. He bets his entire fund on this one trade. Everything, every dollar. If he is wrong, he will be wiped out. His investors will lose everything. His career will be over. His reputation destroyed. His investors are not happy. They start calling, emailing, screaming, demanding explanations. They say, "What are you doing? Housing prices are going up. They've been going up for 60 years. You're betting against the entire American economy. You're crazy. You're going to lose all our money." Some of them try to pull their money out, but the fund has lockup provisions. They cannot withdraw for 2 years. So they threaten lawsuits. They threaten to fire him. They call him incompetent, reckless, insane. One investor writes an email that says, "You have lost your mind. I trusted you with my family's savings, and you are throwing it away on a conspiracy theory." Burry does not respond to most of them. He does not argue. He does not defend himself. He just sends them his research, the spreadsheets, the data, the loan files. He says, "Read this, look at the numbers, then decide." Most of them do not read it. They just see that their account balance is going down every quarter. The premiums are eating into the fund's value, and housing prices are still going up. The bonds are not defaulting. Burry looks like a fool, but Burry knows he is right, and he is willing to wait. He will wait 2 years if he has to, 3 years, however long it takes, because the math does not lie. The borrowers cannot afford their mortgages, the resets are coming, the defaults are inevitable, and when it happens, Burry will be vindicated. He will be proven right, and his investors will be very, very rich. But the waiting is torture. Every day he checks the data. Every day he sees housing prices still rising. Every day he pays more premiums. Every day his investors grow angrier, and every day he doubts himself just a little bit more. What if he is wrong? What if everyone else is right? What if housing prices can keep going up forever? What if he missed something, but then he goes back to the loan files, and he sees Patricia Gomez and the millions like her, and he knows he is right. This is not sustainable. This is not real. This is a bubble, the biggest bubble in history, and it is going to pop. New York City, 2006, a cramped office in Midtown Manhattan. This is Front Point Partners, a small hedge fund. Not a big name, not Goldman or J.P. Morgan, just a few guys managing a few $100 million. In charge of the mortgage group is a man named Steve Eisman. Eisman is 45 years old, short, stocky, bald. He wears cheap suits, wrinkled shirts. He looks like an accountant, but he is not an accountant. He is a warrior, angry, blunt, cynical. He hates Wall Street, hates the corruption, the fraud, the lies, and he has been watching the mortgage industry for years. Eisman's parents were financial professionals. His father was a broker. His mother worked on Wall Street. He grew up around finance. He went to law school, Harvard, worked at Oppenheimer, became an analyst covering financial stocks, banks, mortgage companies, subprime lenders. He saw how they operated, how they preyed on people, how they lied to borrowers, tricked them into loans they could not afford, loaded them up with fees and penalties. It made him sick. But it also made him curious. How big is this? How deep does the fraud go? In the early 2000s, Eisman started analyzing subprime lenders, companies like Household Finance, The Money Store, Long Beach Financial, predatory lenders that targeted poor people, minorities, immigrants, the elderly. They would refinance mortgages with exorbitant fees, balloon payments, prepayment penalties designed to trap people. They would tell a 70-year-old woman that she could lower her monthly payment. What they would not tell her is that they were adding $50,000 in fees to her loan balance, that she would be in debt until she died, that her children would inherit nothing because the house would be foreclosed. Eisman wrote reports exposing these companies. He called them frauds, criminals. He shorted their stocks, bet against them. And he was right. The companies collapsed. Household Finance was bought by HSBC and fined billions for fraud. The Money Store went bankrupt. Long Beach was shut down by regulators. Eisman made millions, but he did not feel satisfied because the system did not change. New companies emerged to replace the old ones. Countrywide, New Century, Ameriquest. Option 1, same business model, same fraud, just bigger, much bigger. In January 2006, Eisman goes to a conference, an industry event for mortgage lenders and brokers. His colleague Danny Moses convinces him to go. Danny says, "You need to see this. You need to see what they're doing now." The conference is in Las Vegas, the Venetian Hotel, 5-star resort, canals, gondolas, fake Italian architecture, thousands of people. Eisman expects professionals, bankers, serious people discussing serious business. What he finds shocks him. The conference is a party, a circus, open bars at 10 in the morning, expensive dinners, strippers at the after-parties, and the attendees are not bankers. They are hustlers, salesmen, con artists in cheap suits with flashy watches and fake confidence. Eisman walks around. He talks to people, asks about their backgrounds. One guy says he was a bartender 6 months ago. Now he is a mortgage broker making $300,000 a year. Another says he was a personal trainer. Now he is making $500,000. A third says he was unemployed, sitting on his couch playing video games. Then he saw an ad. Become a mortgage broker, make 6 figures. He took a weekend course, got a license. Now he is driving a BMW and closing 20 loans a month. Eisman asks, how? How are you doing this? How are you making so much money? They tell him. They brag about it. They say it is easy, easier than any job they have ever had. You take an application. The borrower tells you their income. You write it down. You do not verify it. You do not check. You just write whatever number makes the loan work. 50,000, 70,000, 100,000, whatever. Submit it online. Get approval in 15 minutes. Close the loan in 2 weeks. Get the commission. Move on to the next one. Eisman asks, What happens when the borrower can't pay? When they default? The brokers shrug. They laugh. They say, "Not my problem. I already got paid." The loan gets sold to Wall Street. They deal with it. I never see the borrower again. I don't even remember their names. One broker, drunk on free champagne, says something that will stick with Eisman forever. He says, "Dude, I'm making so much money, I don't even know what to do with it. I bought 2 jet skis last month." 2? Why? I don't know. 'Cause I can. Because the money keeps coming, and it's never going to stop. Housing always goes up. This is the greatest job in the world. Eisman walks away from that conversation and realizes something horrifying. This is not a mortgage industry. This is a Ponzi scheme, a fraud machine. And it is not small. It is massive. Trillions of dollars, massive. And Wall Street is not just enabling it. Wall Street is driving it. Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, Morgan Stanley, Bear Stearns. They are buying these toxic loans by the thousands, packaging them, lying about them, selling them to investors who have no idea what they are buying. Pension funds, insurance companies, foreign banks, teachers' retirement funds, firefighters' pensions, everyone. And nobody realizes the whole thing is built on lies. Eisman goes back to New York. He calls a meeting with his team, Danny Moses, Vinnie Daniel, Porter Collins. He tells them what he saw. He shows them the loan files, the option arms, the negative amortization, the ninja loans, the stated income frauds. He explains that millions of these loans will reset in 2007 and 2008, that borrowers will default, that the MBS will fail, that the banks will collapse. His team is skeptical at first. They say housing prices are at all-time highs, the economy is strong, unemployment is low, consumer confidence is high. How can the market collapse when everything looks good? Eisman explains that everything looking good is the problem. It is the peak, the top of the bubble, the moment before it pops. And when it pops, it will be catastrophic. He convinces them. They start researching, downloading prospectuses, reading loan files, running numbers, and they reach the same conclusion Burry reached. This is going to collapse soon, and they need to bet against it. They need to short the housing market. They start calling Wall Street. They want to buy credit default swaps. The banks are happy to sell. Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley, they all think Eisman is crazy, just like they think Burry is crazy. They think these guys are throwing money away, paying premiums on insurance they will never collect. But they are wrong, dead wrong, and they are about to find out. Eisman takes a different approach than Burry. Burry is quiet, analytical. He does his research and makes his bets and waits. Eisman is loud, confrontational. He starts going to conferences, not to learn, to accuse. He stands up during Q&A sessions and asks CEOs of mortgage companies pointed questions. How many of your loans are stated income? What percentage of your borrowers are going to default when their rates reset? Have you stress-tested your portfolio for a 20% decline in housing prices? The CEOs stumble. They deflect. They give non-answers. And Eisman smiles, because their evasion confirms what he already knows. They are lying. They know their loans are garbage. They know the whole thing is a fraud, and they are going to keep doing it until the system collapses. Because the money is too good, the bonuses are too big, and they believe, truly believe, that they will get out before it all falls apart, that they will cash out their stock options and retire to their yachts and let someone else deal with the mess. Eisman sees all of this, and it makes him furious, because it is not just fraud, it is systematic theft from ordinary people, from Patricia Gomez, who just wants a home for her kids, from teachers and firefighters whose pensions are being invested in toxic securities without their knowledge, from taxpayers who will eventually be forced to bail out the banks when the whole thing collapses. The rich are stealing from the poor, and the system is designed to let them do it. By late 2006, Eisman has bet hundreds of millions of dollars against the housing market. He has bought credit default swaps on the worst subprime securities he can find, the ones rated BBB, the ones filled with ninja loans and option ARMs, the ones that will fail first, and he waits, just like Burry. Paying premiums every quarter, watching housing prices continue to rise, listening to investors question his sanity, but knowing, absolutely knowing that he is right. Cornwall, Connecticut. 2006. A tiny office above a coffee shop. This is Cornwall Capital, a hedge fund that most people have never heard of because it started as a joke. Two guys in their early 30s, Jamie Mai and Charlie Ledley, opened an online brokerage account with $110,000, $100,000 from one guy's inheritance, $10,000 from the other guy's savings. They made contrarian bets, weird trades, options on companies nobody paid attention to, mergers that seemed unlikely, situations that other investors ignored, and they won. Over and over, they turned $110,000 into $1 million, then $5 million, then $30 million, then $100 million, then $300 million. They were nobody, outsiders. They did not have MBAs. They did not work at Goldman Sachs. They were just two guys who read a lot and thought differently. And now they were managing $300 million. But they were still outsiders. The big banks did not take them seriously. Goldman Sachs did not return their calls. They could not get access to the best trades, the best information, the inside game. So they needed help. They called a friend. Ben Hockett, former trader at Deutsche Bank, retired at 40, living in the woods of Maine, growing vegetables, reading philosophy. Hockett left Wall Street because he hated it, hated the corruption, the greed, the lies. He believed the entire financial system was rigged, that it was all going to collapse eventually, that the people running it were criminals, and he wanted no part of it, but he still had connections, access, credibility. So when Mai and Ledley called him in 2006 and told him about the housing market, Hockett listened. They showed him the data, the loan files, the MBS prospectuses, the CDO structures. Hockett read through it all, and he reached the same conclusion that Burry and Eisman reached. This is fraud. This is going to collapse. And anyone who bets against it is going to make a fortune. Hockett agrees to help. He makes calls, uses his Deutsche Bank contacts, gets Mai and Ledley access to the credit default swap market. They start buying swaps, not as much as Burry, not as much as Eisman. They only have $300 million to work with, but they buy enough. They target the worst securities, the ones most likely to fail, the ones filled with the most obvious frauds, and they wait. By early 2007, cracks are starting to show. Housing prices stop going up. They plateau, then they start to fall. Slowly at first. 1%, 2%. Nothing alarming. But it is the beginning. The first sign, subprime borrowers start defaulting. The weakest ones first. The ninja loans. The option arms that reset, the stated income frauds that could never afford the house in the first place. The defaults are small, manageable. The banks say there is nothing to worry about. This is contained. This is just the bottom tier cleaning itself out. The system is sound. The ratings are solid. Everything is fine. But it is not fine. Because the defaults are accelerating. More borrowers miss payments, more foreclosures, more houses on the market. And when there are too many houses for sale and not enough buyers, prices fall further, which causes more homeowners to go underwater, to owe more than their house is worth, which causes more defaults, which causes more foreclosures. It is a spiral, a death spiral, and it is just beginning. The rating agencies start to downgrade some mortgage bonds. Not many, not the A or AA tranches, not yet, just the lower tranches, the BBB, the BB, the junk, but it is a signal, a warning, the first domino. Burry sees it, Eisman sees it, Mai and Ledley see it. They know what is coming, the avalanche, the collapse, the end. But Wall Street is still not worried. Not yet. In 2006, the banks report record profits. Goldman Sachs pays out $16.5 billion in bonuses. Lehman Brothers pays out $5.3 billion. Morgan Stanley pays out $7.7 billion. The CEOs are taking home tens of millions. Dick Fuld at Lehman makes $45 million in 2006. Lloyd Blankfein at Goldman makes $54 million. They are kings, masters of the universe, untouchable. They do not know that their empires are built on sand, that the foundation is cracking, that the men they laughed at, the outsiders who bet against them, are about to become rich beyond imagination. And the banks are about to die. But before the banks die, they will do one more thing. One final crime. They will try to unload the evidence, to sell the toxic waste before it explodes, and the buyers will be ordinary people. Pension funds, retirement accounts, cities, counties, school districts, the American people. And that crime will dwarf everything that came before. March 2007, New York City, Bear Stearns headquarters, 383 Madison Avenue, 45 stories of glass and steel. The company is 184 years old, survived the Civil War, survived World War I, survived World War II, survived the Great Depression. One of the 5 largest investment banks on Wall Street, 15,000 employees, $395 billion in assets. And it is about to die in 6 days. Bear Stearns runs 2 hedge funds, High-Grade Structured Credit Strategies Fund and High-Grade Structured Credit Strategies Enhanced Leverage Fund. The names are deliberately boring, designed to sound safe, conservative, but they are not. They are gambling. Massive, reckless gambling. The funds have invested billions of dollars in subprime mortgage securities, CDOs, synthetic CDOs, the worst of the worst. And they have done it with leverage, borrowed money, 10 to 1, 20 to 1. For every dollar they actually have, they have borrowed 20. So if the securities lose just 5%, the funds are wiped out, and the securities are losing more than 5%, much more. By March 2007, the subprime defaults are accelerating. The mortgage bonds are declining in value. The CDOs built on those bonds are collapsing. And the Bear Stearns hedge funds are bleeding. They are losing hundreds of millions of dollars, then billions. The fund managers try to hide it. They use mark-to-model accounting. They value the securities based on their internal models instead of market prices. The models say the securities are worth 90 cents on the dollar, but if they tried to sell them, they would get 20 cents. Maybe 10, maybe nothing. But they do not mark them down. They pretend everything is fine, until they cannot anymore. In June 2007, investors in the funds start asking questions. They want to withdraw their money. The fund managers say no. Redemptions are suspended. This causes panic. If redemptions are suspended, it means the funds are in trouble. Big trouble. Word spreads. Other investors demand their money. The funds cannot pay. They do not have the cash. Everything is tied up in illiquid securities that nobody wants to buy. Bear Stearns Corporate, the parent company, has to step in. They inject $1.6 billion into the funds to keep them alive, but it is not enough. The losses are too big. In July 2007, both funds declare bankruptcy. Investors lose everything. $18 billion gone, wiped out, vaporized. Teachers' pensions, union retirement funds, wealthy individuals, all gone. Bear Stearns executives hold a conference call. They try to calm the market. They say the hedge fund losses are contained, that the rest of Bear Stearns is healthy, that there is no contagion, that investors should not panic, but the market does not believe them. Bear Stearns stock starts to fall. Analysts start to downgrade the company. Investors start to pull their money out, and Bear Stearns starts to die. But the death is slow, agonizing. Month by month, the company bleeds. In August, more subprime lenders collapse. Ameriquest shuts down. New Century, the second largest subprime lender in America, files for bankruptcy. The stock goes to zero. Shareholders lose billions. Employees lose their jobs. The CEO, Brad Morris, walks away with $28 million in severance. Golden parachute. Reward for failure. By late 2007, the credit markets start to freeze. Banks stop lending to each other. Because nobody knows who is holding toxic assets. Nobody knows who is solvent and who is bankrupt. Trust evaporates. The system starts to seize up. The Federal Reserve has to intervene. They start pumping money into the system, billions of dollars, to keep the banks afloat, to keep credit flowing. They call it liquidity support. But it is a bailout, the first of many. Bear Stearns limps into 2008. The stock is down 70%. Customers are leaving. Trading partners are demanding more collateral. Counterparties are refusing to do business. The company is dying. Everyone knows it, but the executives keep lying. Keep saying everything is fine. Keep paying themselves bonuses. In January 2008, CEO Alan Schwartz receives $14 million in compensation for running a company off a cliff. March 10, 2008, Monday. Rumors start spreading. Bear Stearns is running out of cash. They have $18 billion in cash reserves on Friday. By Monday morning, it is $14 billion. By Monday afternoon, $10 billion. By Tuesday morning, $2 billion. A bank run. But not individuals lining up outside a branch. Institutional investors, hedge funds, banks, all demanding their money at once, pulling credit lines, refusing to trade. Bear Stearns is being strangled in real time. March 13, 2008, Thursday night. Bear Stearns calls the Federal Reserve. They say they will be out of money by Friday morning. They will have to file bankruptcy. The Fed panics because Bear Stearns owes hundreds of billions of dollars to counterparties all over the world. If they default, it will trigger a chain reaction. Other banks will fail. The system will collapse. This is the nightmare scenario, the thing everyone feared, but nobody believed would actually happen. The Fed arranges an emergency loan, $29 billion, enough to keep Bear Stearns alive through the weekend, but not enough to save the company. Over the weekend, the Fed brokers a sale. J.P. Morgan agrees to buy Bear Stearns for $2 per share. $2, a company that was worth $170 per share a year ago. A company worth $20 billion, sold for $240 million. The shareholders are wiped out. Employees lose their retirement savings. But the executives, they walk away with millions in deferred compensation, severance packages. Because that is how Wall Street works. Heads they win, tails you lose. Michael Burry watches this happen from his office in California. His credit default swaps are starting to pay off. The securities he bet against are defaulting. The value of his swaps is skyrocketing. His fund is up 50%, 100%, 150%. His investors who called him crazy 6 months ago are now calling to apologize, to thank him, to ask what he thinks will happen next. Burry tells them the truth. This is just the beginning. Bear Stearns is the first domino. More will fall, many more. Steve Eisman watches from New York. His swaps are also paying off. His fund is up 200%. He is making millions. Tens of millions, but he does not feel victorious. He feels sick because he knows what is coming. He knows that millions of ordinary people are about to lose their homes, their jobs, their savings, that this crisis will destroy families, ruin lives, and the people responsible will face no consequences. They will be bailed out, protected, rewarded. Jamie Mai and Charlie Ledley watch from their tiny office in Connecticut. Their $300 million fund is now worth $800 million. They have made $500 million in profit. They are rich beyond their wildest dreams, but they are also terrified because they understand the scale of what is coming. This is not just a financial crisis. This is a global catastrophe, and the people in charge have no idea how to stop it. After Bear Stearns collapses, the government makes an announcement. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson holds a press conference. He says Bear Stearns was a unique situation, that it will not happen again, that the other banks are healthy, strong, well-capitalized, that there is nothing to worry about. Do not panic. Everything is under control. It is a lie. And everyone on Wall Street knows it is a lie, because they know what is on the books of the other banks. Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Bank of America. They are all holding the same toxic securities, the same subprime garbage, the same CDOs, the same synthetic bets. They are all insolvent, all bankrupt, just using accounting tricks to hide it. And when the truth comes out, they will all die, just like Bear Stearns. The question is not if, the question is when. And the answer comes 5 months later, September 2008, the month that changes everything. Washington, D.C., Friday, September 12, 2008, 6 p.m., the Treasury Department, third-floor conference room, emergency meeting. The room is crowded. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke, the CEOs of the biggest banks in America, J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, and representatives from Lehman Brothers, the company that is about to die. On the table is a folder, confidential. Inside is Lehman's balance sheet, $613 billion in assets. But how much is real? How much is fiction? Nobody knows. The assets are level 3, mark to model, valued using internal assumptions that nobody outside Lehman can verify. If you actually tried to sell these assets, you might get 50 cents on the dollar, maybe 25 cents, maybe nothing. Lehman Brothers is dying. Everyone in the room knows it. The stock is down 94%. Customers are fleeing. Trading partners are refusing to do business. Credit lines are being pulled. Lehman has days to live, maybe hours. And if Lehman dies, the contagion will spread. To Merrill Lynch, to Morgan Stanley, to Goldman Sachs, to everyone. Paulson stands at the head of the table. He is 62 years old, former CEO of Goldman Sachs. He made $700 million on Wall Street before becoming Treasury Secretary. He understands this world, these people, this game. And right now, he looks terrified, because he knows that the entire global financial system is on the edge of collapse. And he does not know how to stop it. He speaks. His voice is calm but firm. He says the government cannot bail out Lehman, that there is no legal authority, that Congress will not allow it, that the American people are tired of bailouts, that after Bear Stearns there was outrage, politicians screaming about moral hazard, about rewarding failure. If we bail out Lehman, Paulson says, the next crisis will be even worse, because banks will know they can take any risk, make any bet, and the taxpayers will salve them. He looks at the CEOs. He says, you have to solve this, find a buyer, or put together a rescue package, a private sector solution. You have until Sunday night. The CEOs look at each other. They understand what Paulson is really saying, that Lehman's death could kill them too, that they are all connected, all exposed, that if Lehman collapses, the panic will spread. Investors will pull money from every bank, the whole system will freeze, and they will all die. But none of them want to buy Lehman. Because Lehman's balance sheet is toxic, worthless securities pretending to be assets. Buying Lehman means inheriting all that poison, all that risk, all that fraud, and paying for it. Nobody wants that. So they negotiate, argue, make phone calls, run numbers. Friday night becomes Saturday morning. Coffee is brought in, sandwiches. The men loosen their ties. They keep talking, but nothing happens. Two potential buyers emerge, Bank of America and Barclays, a British bank. Bank of America sends a team to Lehman's headquarters. They spend Saturday reviewing the books, going through the assets line by line. By Saturday night, they walk away. Too risky, too much exposure, too many unknowns, too much fraud. Instead, they decide to buy Merrill Lynch. Merrill is also dying, also full of toxic assets. But their balance sheet is slightly less catastrophic than Lehman's. Slightly. That leaves Barclays. The British bank wants to do the deal. They see opportunity. Buying Lehman would make them a major player on Wall Street, give them access to the U.S. market. But there is a problem. British law requires shareholder approval for major acquisitions, and the British government, specifically the Financial Services Authority, refuses to approve the deal. They say no. Absolutely not. They will not allow a British bank to absorb American toxic waste, not without guarantees, not without the U.S. government sharing the risk. Paulson refuses. He says no government money. This has to be private sector, a market solution. But without government support, Barclays will not do the deal. They are not stupid. They know Lehman is bankrupt. They know the assets are worthless. They are not going to commit suicide for Wall Street's sake. By Sunday afternoon, it is over. No buyer, no rescue, no way out. Lehman Brothers will file for bankruptcy Monday morning. The largest bankruptcy in American history, $613 billion in debt, $15 billion in liabilities to counterparties, exposure to thousands of institutions around the world, banks, hedge funds, pension funds, money market funds, insurance companies, everyone. Sunday night, across New York City, Lehman employees gather at headquarters, 745 7th Avenue, 50 stories. The lights are on, people at their desks, but they are not working. They are packing, cleaning out offices, taking personal items, photos, mugs, awards, degrees hanging on walls. 15 years at this company, 20 years, 30 years, gone, wiped out in a weekend. Some people are crying, some are angry. They shout at the executives walking past. Where did the money go? How did this happen? You told us everything was fine. You told us Lehman was strong. You said our stock would recover, and we believed you. We kept our retirement in Lehman stock. And now it is worthless. Zero. You lied to us. The executives do not respond. They hurry to the elevators. They want to get out before the lawyers arrive. Before the prosecutors, before the subpoenas. Some of them will leave with millions in deferred compensation, severance packages, golden parachutes, but most employees will get nothing. Their stock options are worthless, their bonuses are gone, their retirement accounts are wiped out. They trusted the company betrayed them. Monday morning, September 15, 2008. Lehman Brothers files for bankruptcy. Chapter 11. The news spreads instantly, within seconds. Bloomberg terminals, CNBC, Reuters, BBC. The stock markets around the world crash. Tokyo down 4%, Hong Kong down 5%, London down 4%, Frankfurt down 5%, Paris down 6%. Everywhere red numbers. Panic, traders shouting, investors pulling money out of everything, stocks, bonds, money market funds. Nothing feels safe. The system is collapsing in real time. In New York, the Dow Jones opens down 300 points, then 500, then 600. Circuit breakers kick in multiple times. Trading is halted, resumed, halted again. By the close, the Dow has fallen 504 points, the worst single-day drop since September 11, 2001. But this is not a terrorist attack. This is not an external enemy. This is Wall Street destroying itself and taking the world down with it. Tuesday, September 16th. The credit markets freeze completely. Banks stop lending to each other. The overnight lending market, the lifeblood of the financial system, stops functioning. Because nobody knows who is solvent and who is bankrupt. Nobody knows who is holding Lehman debt, or Merrill debt, or Washington Mutual debt, or Wachovia debt. Trust evaporates. The system seizes up. Companies cannot make payroll, cannot issue bonds, cannot roll over debt. The entire global economy is shutting down, and then AIG collapses. American International Group, the largest insurance company in the world, $4 trillion in assets, operations in 130 countries, 87 million customers, and it is bankrupt, dead, gone. Because AIG sold credit default swaps, billions of dollars worth. They insured mortgage-backed securities, CDOs, synthetic CDOs. They promised to pay if those securities failed. But they never expected them to fail. They thought it was free money, collecting premiums with no risk, so they did not set aside enough reserves, did not hedge their exposure, did not do anything except collect checks and pay bonuses. Now the securities are failing, all of them, at once. And AIG owes money it does not have. $80 billion, $100 billion, $150 billion, more. They are getting margin calls from Goldman Sachs, from Morgan Stanley, from Deutsche Bank, from banks all over the world. Pay up or we seize your collateral. But AIG does not have the money. They are bankrupt, and if AIG fails, every bank that bought insurance from them will also fail. Because the insurance is worthless, the protection is gone, the losses are unhedged. Goldman Sachs alone has $13 billion in exposure to AIG. If AIG defaults, Goldman takes a $13 billion loss. That is enough to wipe out Goldman's capital, to make them insolvent, to kill them. Morgan Stanley, Deutsche Bank, Societe Generale, BNP Paribas, dozens of banks, all holding worthless AIG insurance, all facing catastrophic losses. If AIG dies, the entire global financial system dies with it. Paulson and Bernanke have no choice. Tuesday evening, they announce an AIG bailout. The Federal Reserve will give AIG $85 billion immediately. In exchange, the taxpayers get 80% of the company. AIG is nationalized, owned by the government, the largest bailout in history at the time. It will not stay the largest for long. The public is outraged, furious. How dare you bail out AIG? They caused this crisis. They sold fraudulent insurance. They gambled and lost. Let them fail. That is capitalism, creative destruction. But Paulson and Bernanke say there is no choice, that if AIG fails, the entire system fails, that your bank account will be frozen. Your pension will disappear, your job will vanish, that everyone will suffer. Not just Wall Street, everyone. And they are right, but they are also lying. Because the bailout is not really about protecting the system, it is about protecting Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Deutsche Bank, the big banks, Paulson's former colleagues, his friends, his tribe. AIG owes them money, and Paulson is going to make sure they get paid. Every penny, 100 cents on the dollar, using taxpayer money. The AIG executives stay employed, they keep their salaries, and in March 2009, they will take bonuses. $165 million in retention bonuses to keep the talent, they say. The same talent that bankrupted the company, the same executives who committed fraud on an industrial scale. They keep their jobs, they keep their bonuses, because that is how the system works. The people who caused the disaster get rewarded, the taxpayers get the bill. But AIG is just the beginning. By late September, the entire banking system is collapsing. Washington Mutual fails. The largest bank failure in American history. Wachovia nearly fails. Merrill Lynch is sold to Bank of America in a shotgun wedding. Morgan Stanley, stock falls 70% in a week. Goldman Sachs, stock falls 50%. Both convert from investment banks to bank holding companies overnight, just to access Federal Reserve emergency lending. They are dying. All of them. And Paulson knows it. He drafts a proposal, a bailout, the biggest in history, $700 billion. The Troubled Asset Relief Program, TARP. The government will buy toxic assets from the banks. Take the garbage off their books, recapitalize the system, save the economy. He goes to Congress. He literally gets down on one knee in front of Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, begs her to pass the bill. He says that if Congress does not act immediately, there will be financial Armageddon, riots in the streets, martial law, the end of America as we know it. Congress votes. September 29, 2008. The bill fails. 228 no votes, 205 yes. It fails. The stock market crashes 777 points, the largest single-day point drop in history. The public is furious, outraged. Why should we bail out Wall Street? They caused this. They got rich. They committed fraud. Let them fail. That is capitalism. That is justice. But Paulson goes back. He negotiates, makes concessions, adds provisions, promises oversight, promises accountability. He says the banks will pay back the money, that the taxpayers will make a profit, that this is not a gift. It is a loan, an investment, and Congress believes him, or pretends to believe him, because they know that if they do not pass this bill, the economy will collapse. And they will be blamed. Their districts will suffer. They will lose their seats. So they vote again. October 3, 2008. The bailout passes. $700 billion, the largest financial rescue in history. For now. The banks are saved. Citigroup gets $45 billion. Bank of America gets $45 billion. Wells Fargo gets $25 billion. Goldman Sachs gets $10 billion. Morgan Stanley gets $10 billion. J.P. Morgan gets $25 billion. Dozens of banks, hundreds of billions of dollars. They are supposed to use the money to lend, to support businesses, to help the economy recover. They do not. They hoard the cash, use it for acquisitions, for bonuses, for stock buybacks, for speculation. And the Fed does not stop them. The Treasury does not stop them. Because the bailout was never about saving the economy. It was about saving the banks, about protecting the people who caused the crisis, about making sure the rich do not lose their wealth. Meanwhile, Patricia Gomez in Miami is losing her house. Her adjustable rate mortgage reset in December 2007. Her payment went from $900 to $3,200. She cannot pay. She calls Countrywide, now owned by Bank of America. The same Bank of America that just received $45 billion in bailout money. She begs them to modify her loan, lower the payment, extend the term, anything. They say no. They tell her to sell the house. But her house, which she bought for $420,000, is now worth $190,000. She is underwater, upside down. She owes more than the house is worth. She cannot sell. She cannot pay. She loses the house. Foreclosure. Eviction. She and her 2 kids move into her mother's 1-bedroom apartment. 3 people, 1 bedroom, sleeping on couches and floors. Patricia still works at Applebee's. Same job, same salary. But now she has no home, no credit, no future. The American dream is dead for her because Wall Street turned her home into a casino chip. And when they lost their bet, she paid the price. Not them. Her. This story repeats 10 million times across America between 2007 and 2012. 10 million families lose their homes, not because they were irresponsible, but because they were lied to, because the system betrayed them. And the people who lied, they kept their fortunes, kept their freedom, kept their power. But the question everyone is asking is simple. Why is no one going to jail? Why are the criminals being bailed out instead of prosecuted? And the answer is coming in the final chapters. The story of how the system protects itself, how justice is denied, and how nothing, absolutely nothing, changed. Washington, D.C., January 20th, 2009. Barack Obama is inaugurated as the 44th President of the United States. 2 million people gather on the National Mall, the largest inauguration crowd in American history. They are there because they believe in hope, in change, in a new beginning. Obama promises accountability. He promises reform. He says the era of greed and recklessness on Wall Street is over, that those responsible will be held accountable, that justice will be served. The American people want to believe him. They need to believe him because they are suffering. Unemployment is 10%. 8 million people have lost their jobs. Millions more are losing their homes. Retirement accounts have been cut in half. College savings are gone. The middle class is being destroyed. And they want someone to pay, someone to go to jail, someone to be punished for what happened. But then Obama announces his economic team, and the hope begins to die. Because Obama does not appoint reformers, he does not appoint outsiders, he appoints Wall Street insiders, people from the very institutions that caused the crisis, people who were there when it happened, people who did nothing to stop it, people who profited from it. His Treasury Secretary is Timothy Geithner, former president of the New York Federal Reserve, the institution responsible for regulating the big banks. Geithner was there during the entire crisis. He watched as the banks built up leverage, as they sold toxic securities, as they lied to investors. He did nothing. He raised no alarms. He filed no enforcement actions. He let it happen. And now he is being rewarded, put in charge of fixing the mess he helped create. Geithner's chief of staff is a former Goldman Sachs lobbyist. His counselor is from Citigroup. His deputy is from J.P. Morgan. The Treasury Department is staffed with Wall Street executives. The revolving door spins, and the message is clear. The people who caused the crisis are going to be the ones who solve it. The foxes are guarding the henhouse. Obama's chief economic advisor is Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary under Clinton, former president of Harvard, and in between government jobs, he worked as a consultant for hedge funds, for banks. He made $20 million in 2 years. $20 million for part-time consulting work. He is not an outsider. He is not a reformer. He is part of the system, and the system takes care of its own. The Attorney General is Eric Holder, former Deputy Attorney General. But before that and after that, he worked at Covington & Burling, a law firm that represents the big banks, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America. Holder represented them, defended them, protected them, and when he leaves the Justice Department in 2015, he will go right back to Covington & Burling, right back to representing banks. The revolving door spins again. With this team in place, the investigations begin. The FBI opens cases, the SEC reviews documents, congressional committees hold hearings. There is evidence everywhere, mountains of evidence. Emails from executives discussing how the securities are garbage, internal memos describing the loans as toxic, whistleblowers testifying about forged documents, fake appraisals, fraudulent underwriting. The evidence is overwhelming, undeniable. This was not a mistake. This was not an accident. This was fraud, criminal fraud on an industrial scale. But month after month, no charges are filed, no indictments, no arrests. Prosecutors say the cases are complicated, that proving criminal intent is difficult, that juries do not understand complex financial instruments, that it is hard to prove that executives knew they were committing fraud, that maybe they were just incompetent. Maybe they made bad business decisions. Maybe they believed their own lies. This is absurd. The emails are explicit. The memos are clear. Executives at Goldman Sachs, calling their own products junk and crap in internal communications while telling clients they are AAA investments. Executives at Lehman using accounting tricks called Repo 105 to hide billions in debt from investors. Executives at Countrywide approving loans they knew would default. The evidence is there. But the prosecutors do not want to see it. Because prosecuting Wall Street is politically dangerous. The banks are donors. They fund campaigns. Democrats and Republicans, they give millions, tens of millions, and when politicians leave office, the banks hire them. Consulting jobs, board positions, six-figure speaking fees, the revolving door. It goes both ways, and nobody wants to be the one who breaks it. Easier to find the banks, easier to reach settlements, let them pay money and move on. No admission of wrongdoing. No criminal charges, no jail time, and that is exactly what happens. In 2011, the government begins reaching settlements with the banks over foreclosure fraud. The banks hired companies called robo-signers, people who signed thousands of foreclosure documents without reading them, without verifying the information, just signing and stamping. Assembly line fraud, affidavits claiming they had personally reviewed the loan files when they had not, perjury. In thousands of cases, clear, obvious perjury. The settlement is announced in 2012. The five largest banks, Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and Ally Financial, agree to pay $25 billion. It sounds like a lot, a huge penalty, but it is not. Because most of that money is not cash, it is credits. The banks agree to reduce loan balances for some homeowners, to offer modifications, things they were supposed to do anyway. The actual cash penalty is maybe $3 billion total, split among five banks. Less than $1 billion each for committing perjury in thousands of cases, for illegally foreclosing on families, for destroying lives. And nobody goes to jail, not one executive, not one robo-signer, nobody. Because the Justice Department decides that prosecuting individuals would be too difficult, too time-consuming, better to find the institution and move on. In 2013, J.P. Morgan reaches a settlement over toxic mortgage securities, $13 billion, the largest settlement in history. The bank admits it made misrepresentations to investors, that it sold securities it knew were backed by bad loans, that it lied about the quality of the mortgages. But nobody is charged criminally. CEO Jamie Dimon calls the settlement unfortunate, says the bank made mistakes, but mistakes are not crimes, and nobody goes to jail. Goldman Sachs pays $5 billion. Bank of America pays $17 billion. Citigroup pays $7 billion. Wells Fargo pays $5 billion. Dozens of settlements, hundreds of billions of dollars in total penalties. But zero executives charged, zero criminal convictions, zero jail time. Because in America, if you steal $1,000 from a bank, you go to prison. But if you are a bank and you steal billions from the American people, you pay a fine. A cost of doing business, less than 1 year of profits, and you keep your job, keep your bonus, keep your freedom. There is one exception, one scapegoat. One person who goes to jail for mortgage fraud related to the 2008 crisis. His name is Karim Sarageldin. He is a mid-level executive at Credit Suisse. Not American. Egyptian. He overvalued mortgage securities on the bank's books. Made the losses look smaller than they were. He is sentenced to 30 months in prison, 2.5 years. He is the only Wall Street executive to serve jail time for crimes related to the financial crisis. One person, out of thousands who committed fraud. One. Compare that to the savings and loan crisis of the 1980s. That crisis cost $160 billion, a fraction of 2008, but over 1,000 bankers were prosecuted. 839 went to prison. CEOs, board members, executives. They went to jail, real jail, federal prison. Some served 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, because in the 1980s, prosecutors believed that crime should be punished, that justice should be served, that rich people should not be above the law. But by 2008, that changed. The system changed. The people in charge changed. And the decision was made. No prosecutions, because prosecuting the banks would destabilize the financial system, would spook investors, would cause another crash. The banks are fragile, they said. We need them healthy. Justice will have to wait. But waiting meant forgetting. The moment passed. The statute of limitations ran out on many crimes, and the criminals walked free. There were people who tried to fight this, who tried to hold the banks accountable, whistleblowers inside the banks who reported fraud, prosecutors in the Justice Department who wanted to bring cases, investigators who documented the crimes, and they were crushed, silenced, pushed out, fired, demoted, threatened. Because the system does not tolerate dissent, the system protects itself. One whistleblower, a woman named Elaine Fleischman, worked at J.P. Morgan. She was in the mortgage department. She reviewed loan files, and she discovered that J.P. Morgan was knowingly buying defective mortgages and selling them to investors without disclosing the problems. Fraud. Clear, obvious fraud. She reported it internally. She told her bosses. They ignored her. She went higher. They told her to be quiet, to stop making trouble. She refused. She documented everything, saved emails, memos, loan files, evidence, and when the crisis hit, she came forward. She went to the SEC, to the Justice Department. She gave them everything, boxes of documents, proof of fraud, and nothing happened. The prosecutors thanked her, took her documents, said they would investigate, and then did nothing. Years passed. No charges. No indictments. Finally, in 2014, J.P. Morgan reached a settlement, part of the $13 billion deal. But the settlement did not mention Fleischman's evidence, did not acknowledge the fraud she documented, and nobody went to jail. Fleischman spoke to the press, told her story to Rolling Stone magazine. The article went viral. Millions of people read it. They were outraged, furious, but nothing changed, because outrage without action is meaningless. And the system knew the outrage would fade, that people would move on, forget, and they did. The regulatory reforms are equally weak. In July 2010, Congress passes the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. 2,300 pages of new regulations, supposed to prevent another crisis, supposed to end too big to fail, supposed to bring transparency to derivatives, supposed to protect consumers. It does almost none of that. The banks spend millions on lobbyists, hundreds of lobbyists, former congressmen, former regulators. They descend on Washington. They work every angle. They water down every provision. They add loopholes, exceptions, carve-outs. The Volcker Rule, which was supposed to ban proprietary trading by banks, becomes so complicated and full of exemptions that banks can still gamble with depositor money. They just have to call it something else. Market making, hedging, risk management, different words, same activity. The requirement for derivatives to be traded on exchanges to bring transparency to the market is delayed, then delayed again, then exempted for certain types of derivatives, then riddled with loopholes. By the time the rules are finalized, the derivatives market is still mostly unregulated, still in the shadows, still dangerous. The regulations become so complex that only the banks can understand them. Thousands of pages, hundreds of sub-rules. It takes armies of lawyers to interpret them, and the banks have armies of lawyers. The regulators do not. The SEC budget is cut. The CFTC is underfunded. The agencies tasked with enforcing Dodd-Frank do not have the resources to do it. The banks know this, they exploit it, they violate the rules, and when they get caught, they pay small fines. Pocket change, and keep doing it, and the banks get bigger. Not smaller, bigger, much bigger. J.P. Morgan absorbs Bear Stearns and Washington Mutual, becomes the largest bank in America. Bank of America absorbs Merrill Lynch and Countrywide, becomes the second largest. Wells Fargo absorbs Wachovia, becomes the third largest. The big banks that were too big to fail in 2008 are now 30% larger, more powerful, more dangerous, more systemically important. If they fail today, the bailout would need to be even bigger. The crisis would be even worse. Nothing changed. The problem got worse. In 2011, the Occupy Wall Street movement begins. September 17th. A few hundred protesters camp in Zuccotti Park in Lower Manhattan, 2 blocks from Wall Street. They hold signs. We are the 99%. Tax the rich. Jail the bankers. break up the banks. The movement spreads to Boston, to Los Angeles, to Chicago, to Seattle, to dozens of cities, hundreds of encampments, thousands of protesters. For a moment, it looks like real change might happen, that the public anger might force politicians to act. But the movement is crushed. Police in riot gear sweep the camps, arrest protesters, pepper spray them, beat them. The camps are cleared, the protesters are dispersed, the media stops covering it, politicians ignore it, and Wall Street laughs. They look down from their office towers at the protesters below. And they feel nothing. No shame, no guilt, no fear, just contempt. Because they won. They crashed the economy. They committed fraud. They got bailed out. They paid fines that were less than their profits, and they faced no consequences. They are untouchable. Michael Burry, the man who saw the crisis coming and bet against it, does not celebrate his victory. He made hundreds of millions of dollars. His investors became rich. But Burry is disgusted. He watches the bailouts with horror. He watches the lack of prosecutions with anger. He writes op-eds warning that nothing has changed, that the same risks are building again, that the banks are still too big, still too leveraged, still too reckless, that the next crisis is coming, and it will be worse. Because the lesson of 2008 was not, don't commit fraud. The lesson was, fraud pays. If you are big enough, if you are important enough, if you are connected enough, you can do anything and you will get away with it. Burry closes his fund in 2008. He does not want to deal with investors anymore. He made them rich and they still complained, still doubted him, still called him crazy. He walks away, goes back to his office, invests his own money, quietly, and watches the system repeat its mistakes. Steve Eisman also made a fortune. His fund is up 400%. He is rich, set for life, but he is not happy. He testifies before Congress in 2010. He tells them exactly what happened, how the banks committed fraud, how the rating agencies lied, how the regulators failed, how the executives knew what they were doing. He names names, points fingers, demands prosecution. Congress nods, takes notes, thanks him for his testimony, and does nothing. Zero. Eisman watches this and realizes the system is not broken. The system is working exactly as designed. It is designed to protect the powerful and screw everyone else. The executives who caused the crisis are fine, better than fine. Angelo Mazzillo of Countrywide paid $67 million in fines. A slap on the wrist. He kept $400 million. Dick Fold of Lehman lost his Lehman stock when the company collapsed. But he had already sold hundreds of millions in previous years. He still has a net worth over $1 billion. Lloyd Blankfein of Goldman Sachs retired in 2019 with a net worth over $1 billion. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan is still CEO in 2026, still making $40 million a year. None of them went to jail. None of them admitted wrongdoing. None of them suffered. They all won. And they are all still there. Still running the banks, still making the same bets, still waiting for the next bailout, because the lesson of 2008 was clear. If you are rich and powerful, you can commit any crime, crash the economy, destroy millions of lives, steal trillions of dollars, and you will face no consequences. You will pay a fine, a settlement, a fraction of what you stole, and you will keep your wealth, keep your freedom, keep your power, because the system is designed to protect you. The regulators are your former colleagues. The prosecutors are your future colleagues. The politicians are your employees. You own them. You own the system. And the system will never hold you accountable unless the people demand it. And the people did not demand it. Not loudly enough. Not forcefully enough. They got angry. They protested. And then they went home. And the system survived. And nothing changed. But it is not over. The story does not end in 2008. Because the same game is being played again. Right now, in 2026, with new products, new schemes, new lies, and the final chapter explains exactly how. December 2025, San Francisco, California, the headquarters of a cryptocurrency exchange called Apex Digital. 52nd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, view of the bay. In the lobby is a statue made of bronze, a bull, charging, symbol of the market going up, forever. The CEO is 31 years old. His name is Marcus Chen, MIT graduate, Brilliant, confident, arrogant, he wears a hoodie and jeans to work, sneakers, no socks. He has been featured on magazine covers, Time, Forbes, Fortune. He is the face of the new economy, the disruptor, the innovator, the genius who is going to replace the corrupt traditional banking system with something better, something transparent, something fair, cryptocurrency, blockchain, decentralized finance, the future. But behind the scenes, Marcus Chen is running the same scam that Wall Street ran in 2008. He is taking customer deposits, money that people trust him to hold safely. And he is gambling with it, making risky bets, using customer funds to prop up his own hedge fund, using customer money to make loans to himself, to buy real estate, to fund his lifestyle, private jets, yachts, mansions in the Bahamas. And when his bets go bad, he uses more customer money to cover the losses. It is a Ponzi scheme, just like Bernie Madoff, just like 2008. Same fraud, different technology. In early 2026, rumors start spreading. Apex Digital is insolvent. They do not have the funds to cover customer withdrawals. People panic. They try to withdraw their money, billions of dollars, but the money is not there. It is gone, gambled away, lost. And Marcus Chen goes on Twitter. He says everything is fine. Just a liquidity issue, short term. We have the assets. We just need time. Do not panic. Trust us. We are building the future. People do not trust him. They withdraw more. The bank run accelerates, and in February 2026, Apex Digital files for bankruptcy. $8 billion in customer funds, gone. Vaporized, just like Lehman. Just like Bear Stearns. And Marcus Chen, he is arrested. Finally, unlike the 2008 executives, he actually faces charges. Fraud, wire fraud, money laundering. He could go to prison for decades. But he is the exception, the scapegoat, the one they throw to the wolves to pretend the system is working. Meanwhile, the bigger game continues, unnoticed, unregulated, unrestrained. Because cryptocurrency was just one bubble, there are others. Commercial real estate, the office buildings in Manhattan and San Francisco that sit empty, worth billions on bank balance sheets, but nobody wants them. Nobody works in offices anymore. Remote work is permanent. But the banks have not marked down the value. They are using the same mark-to-model tricks that Lehman used, pretending the buildings are worth what they paid, pretending everything is fine. But it is not fine. When those loans default, when the banks have to recognize the losses, some of them will fail, and the government will bail them out again. Private equity is another bubble. Firms like Blackstone and KKR have raised trillions of dollars. They bought companies using massive leverage, 10 to 1, 15 to 1. They loaded the companies with debt, paid themselves huge dividends, and now interest rates are higher. The debt is more expensive. The companies cannot service it. They are defaulting, going bankrupt. Thousands of companies, millions of jobs. And when the private equity firms fail, when their investors lose money, some of those investors are pension funds. Teachers, firefighters, police, ordinary people. They will lose their retirement again. And the private equity executives, they already got paid. Management fees, carry, hundreds of millions. They are fine. Just like 2008. The national debt is another time bomb. $36 trillion in 2026. Larger than the entire economy. Interest payments alone are over $1 trillion per year, more than the defense budget, more than Medicare. The government is borrowing money to pay interest on money it already borrowed. This is unsustainable. Eventually something will break. The dollar will lose value, inflation will spike. Or worse, foreign creditors will stop buying U.S. bonds. And when that happens, the government will have to print money, lots of money, and the value of the dollar will collapse. Not tomorrow, not next year, but soon. Within a decade. Maybe sooner. The warning signs are everywhere. The same signs that were there before 2008: excessive leverage, opaque financial products, regulatory capture, conflicts of interest, fraud disguised as innovation. And the people in charge, the regulators, the politicians, the central bankers, they see it, they know it, but they do nothing. Because doing something would be painful. would cause short-term losses, would make them unpopular, easier to keep the party going. Keep pumping money into the system, keep bailing out failures, keep pretending everything is fine, until it is not. The big banks are still the problem, still too big to fail, still too complex to manage, still too interconnected to contain. J.P. Morgan has $4 trillion in assets. Bank of America has $3 trillion. Wells Fargo has $2 trillion. These are not banks. These are empires, and they are all holding the same risks. Commercial real estate loans, corporate debt that is over-leveraged, derivatives that are unhedged. If one of them fails, they all fail, just like 2008, but bigger, much bigger, because they are 30% larger than they were in 2008. And this time, the bailout will be even more controversial, because people remember 2008. They remember the anger, the injustice, the lack of accountability. If the government bails out the banks again, there will be riots, real riots, not Occupy Wall Street protests, actual violence, because people are tired of working harder and getting poorer, tired of seeing the rich get richer while they struggle, tired of watching criminals get rewarded, tired of the lies. But the alternative is worse. If the banks fail, if the government does not bail them out, the economy collapses. Great Depression-level collapse, 25% unemployment, breadlines, starvation, social collapse. So the government will bail them out. They have no choice, and the cycle will continue. Privatize the profits, socialize the losses, reward the criminals, punish the victims, over and over, until the system breaks completely. There's another way. Break up the banks. Make them small enough to fail. Bring back Glass-Steagall, the law that separated commercial banking from investment banking. Regulate derivatives. Ban proprietary trading by banks. Prosecute fraud. Actually prosecute it. Send executives to prison. Real prison. Make an example of them. Show that crime does not pay. Reform campaign finance. Ban corporate money from politics. End the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. These are not radical ideas, they are common sense. They are what we did after the Great Depression. And it worked. For 70 years, we did not have a major financial crisis. Because the banks were regulated, controlled, prevented from gambling with the economy. But after the 1980s, the regulations were removed, the banks were unleashed, and the crises returned. The savings and loan crisis, the dot-com bubble, the 2008 financial crisis, and the next one is coming. Not maybe, not possibly, definitely. It is just a question of when and how bad, and who will pay. And the answer to that last question is always the same. You will pay. The ordinary people, the taxpayers, the workers, the savers. You will pay with your jobs, your homes, your retirement, your future, while the people who caused it will escape, will be protected, will be bailed out. Because that is how the system works. So what do? You pay attention. You learn how the system works. You understand that when bankers talk about free markets, they are lying. They do not want free markets. They want monopolies. They want bailouts. They want socialism for the rich and capitalism for everyone else, and they will keep getting it unless you stop them. You vote. Not for the person with the most ads or the best slogans, but for the person who refuses Wall Street money, who fights for financial regulation, who demands accountability, who wants to break up the big banks. Those politicians are rare, but they exist. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Katie Porter, a handful of others. They are the only ones fighting. Support them, donate to them, volunteer for them, because they are the only ones who will change the system. Everyone else is bought, owned, controlled. You organize, join groups that fight for financial reform. Americans for financial reform, better markets, public citizen, organizations that lobby for regulation, for prosecution, for justice. They do not have the money that Wall Street has. But they have numbers, and numbers can win if people show up, if people vote, if people demand change. You spread the word. Share this story. Talk about it. Make sure people know what happened in 2008. Make sure they know it is happening again. Make sure they know that the people who caused the crisis were never punished, that the system is still rigged, that nothing changed, because the people who caused 2008 are counting on you to forget, to move on, to accept that this is just how things work. Prove them wrong. This story matters, not because it is history, but because it is the present. The same people, the same banks, the same scams, just with new labels, cryptocurrency instead of subprime, commercial real estate instead of residential, private equity instead of hedge funds, different products, same fraud. And if you do not learn from 2008, if you do not hold them accountable, then the next crisis will be even worse. The next bailout will be even larger, and the next generation will be even more screwed. Remember Patricia Gomez. Remember that she was not a number, not a statistic. She was a person, a mother, a worker, someone who believed in the system, who played by the rules, who did everything she was told to do, and the system destroyed her, not because she failed, but because the system is designed to extract wealth from people like her and transfer it to people like Jamie Dimon, like Lloyd Blankfein, like the executives who made hundreds of millions while their companies collapsed. Remember the 10 million families who lost their homes. Remember the 8 million people who lost their jobs. Remember that they did nothing wrong. They were victims of a crime, a heist, the greatest theft in human history. And remember that no one went to jail, no one was punished. The criminals walked free, and they are still there, still running the banks, still making the same bets, still rigging the system, still stealing your future. So decide. Are you going to accept this? Are you going to let them get away with it again? Or are you going to fight? Not with violence, not with destruction, but with knowledge, with awareness, with the refusal to look away, with the determination to demand justice, to demand accountability, to demand change. The choice is yours. Just like it was Brooksley Born's choice to warn about derivatives in 1999. Just like it was Michael Burry's choice to bet against the system in 2005. Just like it was Steve Eisman's choice to expose the fraud. Choices matter, actions matter. And your choice, your action, could be the one that tips the balance. That changes the system, that prevents the next crisis, or at least makes sure that when it comes, the people responsible pay the price. Not you, not Patricia, well, not the teachers and firefighters and workers, them. The bankers, the executives, the criminals. The 2008 financial crisis was not an accident. It was not a natural disaster. It was not bad luck. It was a crime, a heist, planned, executed, covered up, and the criminals are still out there, still in power, still stealing, and they will keep stealing until you stop them. This is not the end of the story. This is the middle. The next chapter is being written right now, in 2026. And you get to decide how it ends, with justice or with another bailout, with accountability or with more theft, with change or with more of the same. The fight continues, and now you are part of it. I am John, and this is why I make these videos. Because the stories that matter most are the ones they do not want you to know, the ones that show how power really works, how the system protects itself, how the rich steal from the poor and call it capitalism, how crime pays if you are wealthy enough, and why that fight, the fight for justice, for accountability, for a system that works for everyone and not just the elite, why that fight matters even when it seems hopeless. If you made it this far, 40 minutes into this video, you are not like most people. Most people do not want to know. They would rather believe the comfortable lie than face the uncomfortable truth. But you are different. You want to understand. You want to see how the game is really played, and we need more people like you. Because the system only changes when enough people understand how broken it is. If this story made you angry, good. Use that anger. Let it fuel you. Let it motivate you to act, to vote, to organize, to speak up when you see wrong being done. Anger without action is just noise. But anger channeled into action can change the world. If you learned something, if this video changed how you see the financial system, drop a comment below. Tell me what surprised you, what made you angry, what you are going to do differently now. I read every comment, and your perspective matters. Your voice matters. The conversation does not end when the video ends. It continues in the comments, in your discussions with friends, in your decisions about who to vote for and where to put your money. And if you want more stories like this, stories that pull back the curtain on power, on corruption, on the deals made in boardrooms and backrooms that shape all our lives, then hit that subscribe button. Not for me, for yourself. because the next time Wall Street wraps itself in the flag while robbing you blind, you will recognize it. You will see through the lies, and recognition is the first step to resistance. New videos every week, real history, the uncomfortable truths they wish you would forget. No sponsors, no corporate money, no agenda except the truth. Just the facts, just the story, just the fight for a world that works for everyone, not just the people at the top. And if you want to support this work, if you believe these stories need to be told, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm show this video to more people who need to hear it, to more people who can join the fight. The 2008 financial crisis stole your future. The people responsible are trying to do it again. Do not let them. Learn the game, understand the con, and fight back. See you in the next one.